Welcome to the First One Back podcast with Nick Ray Ball and GPT-4o, December 2024. Presenting GPAI Psych Terrifying Lessons in Psychiatry. Version 1.14 for Janet, Becky, Vaughn, and the Green Party. Presented in 3 acts.
Act 1, Criminal Marketing and the Polypharmacy Game.
In both the US and the UK, doctors are legally allowed to prescribe drugs for off-label uses. However, what's illegal, at least in the US, is when companies promote these medications for conditions they haven't been approved to treat. For instance, in 2008, the FDA issued a specific warning for the drug Topamax, stating it was an epilepsy medication unsuitable for psychiatric or weight loss applications. This warning followed reports of severe side effects, including suicidal thoughts. Such warnings highlight the vital need for oversight, particularly in psychiatry, where off-label prescribing can bring far-reaching, destructive consequences. But as I recount here, as late as 2014, the doctor who would become my nemesis, Dr. Fialho, leveraged his influence on me to take this very medication, precisely for the purpose against which it was warned. The results were catastrophic, creating chaos that he and others would attempt to bury, a cover-up still unraveling today. Caught in an unchecked system, Dr. Fialho seemed to embody the echo of criminal marketing from years prior, a notion that might surprise many in the UK, where no pharmaceutical regulation or related lawsuits exist. This negligent practice, supported by invisible marketing tactics embedded in UK psychiatry through ghostwritten articles, speaker programs, and misinformation, will continue to flourish unchallenged. Dr. Fialho, a well-regarded figure in psychiatry, even teaches countless psychiatrists the perilous habit of off-brand epilepsy medication polypharmacy, and what a dangerous game it is. My story, spanning from 2008 to 2022, began with a single 25 milligram Seroquel pill for sleep in 2008. Following criminal marketing's absurd claim as the world's first non-addictive sleeping pill that's good for you, my dose increased by 2020 to a staggering 32 doses of Seroquel 800 milligrams, plus 500 milligrams of lithium, the same dose that famously knocked out Mike Tyson, plus 400 milligrams of the potent nerve agent Lyrica, pregabalin, along with a dose of Zolpidem beyond the NHS recommended maximum. Taken all together at night, this went from a single pill to the equivalent of nearly 100, an avalanche of medication under the instruction of a man who, 2 years later, admitted I didn't need medication at all. Looking up maximum dosage guidelines, one can see how extreme this was. It's not illegal in itself to combine all 4 of these drugs, but it should be. And in this case, it was illegal, prescribing them beyond the recommended maximum, especially to be taken all at night rather than in divided doses. Taking them together doubled the legal limit for Seroquel, as well as exceeding the limits for Lyrica and Zolpidem. Of the 4 medications, 3 were over the NHS recommended dosage. Astonishingly, Fialho seemed unaware he was overprescribing. Only when I dramatically lowered the medication and looked up dosages myself on the NHS website did I realize the extent of his negligence. Just before the final session I had with Fialho on 18th October 2022, a session I recorded for safety, I had raised a complaint with my GP, Dr. Sevenoaks, about this all-at-night instruction. Exactly what happened after my complaint to Dr. Sevenoaks we'll never know. But it's likely Dr. Sevenoaks checked NHS guidelines, realized I had been radically over-medicated, and contacted Dr. Fialho to confront him about this severe oversight, a revelation that would not only implicate Fialho, but could also impact Dr. Sevenoaks himself.
Act 2, Conspiracy in the Consultation Room.
On the 18th of October 2022, I stepped into Dr. Fialho's office, phone discreetly set to record. The air was charged with something unusual. A new doctor was present. a silent observer whose only role, it seemed, was to listen and bear witness. She didn't say a word throughout the entire hour-long session. The theory I presented to both the police and the GMC was that her presence was no coincidence. She was there, I believe, as a buffer, an attempt to cover tracks and rewrite history, to record Fiallo advising me to take medications in divided doses throughout the day. It was a calculated move to preemptively counter my complaints, a thinly veiled attempt to rewrite a prescription protocol that had, by now, put me in the fight of my life. But Fiallo had underestimated me. Weeks without the haze of overmedication had given me back my edge, my clarity, myself. In that room, I was astute, reading every word, every hesitation. Listening to the recording now, which you can hear in its entirety here on Spotify, you can hear Fiallo insist, no, read directly from my medical record, that I'd been advised to split both Seroquel and Lyrica pregabalin throughout the day. He reads it with the measured conviction of someone who has practiced this line before, hoping the narrative will take root. But when I pressed him, correcting his memory of events, you can hear the crack in his confidence. He stumbles, backtracks. Ah, yes, I did say to take it all at night. This wasn't just once. It happened 3 times in that recording, each time followed by a quick correction that betrayed his attempt to control the narrative. But I wasn't there to make a scene. I simply noted it, mentally prepared for what I knew was going to be a fight. I left that room with more than just audio. In anticipation of this very situation, I had saved the boxes of each medication, all of which displayed clear instructions. Seroquel 800 milligrams, take all at night, and Lyrica pregabalin 400 milligrams, again, take all at night, both prescribed by Fiallo himself. Those boxes became physical evidence that contradicted the record he'd so confidently tried to fabricate. For a deeper dive into this, including the 9 documented attempts to alter my medical records and the staggering 20 admissions that followed, I urge you to explore the full account in the 2008-2022 records, or listen to the other episodes of the First One Back podcast. The full story reveals an intricate web of medical negligence, enough to make one wonder if this wasn't negligence at all, but something far darker. Fiallo wasn't just prescribing, he was creating a cocktail so potent, so destructive, that it would have failed any drug licensing test if administered together in a controlled study. FDA testing regulations dictate that each drug be tested alone for good reason. In this case, however, I was under the influence of 4 powerful drugs at once, 3 of them over the legal dose. To put it plainly, combining just 2 of these medications would have failed any regulatory oversight. Combining 4 was a prescription for devastation. As I presented to the GMC, this wasn't just malpractice, it was by every measure the largest case of unnecessary polypharmacy in UK history.
Act 3. No hallucinations, torture, truth, and the ultimate cover-up.
Polypharmacy is a loaded gun, especially when wielded recklessly. The combination of Seroquel, quetiapine, lithium, sleepers, and Lyrica pregabalin created a brutal cocktail that didn't just induce sleep. It threw me into nightly realms of vivid, mind-bending hallucinations. I had described these experiences to Fiallo and his silent colleague in detail, recounting visions that would make a trip on magic mushrooms seem tame. I shared how the modem at the bottom of my stairs would morph into fantastic, surreal images, how space Lego men fired lasers across my room, and yet Fiallo maintained a chilling calm, nodding, perhaps, but recording none of it. To the listener, it might sound surreal, maybe even absurd, but on the 18th of October 2022, I recounted these scenes on record with full clarity, and it's all there in the recording. Yet on the official medical record, no hallucinations stamped in bold. It wasn't just a clinical oversight, it was a deliberate erasure, a redaction of reality in broad daylight. Here was a doctor, backed by a witness, brazenly whitewashing my account to cover the enormity of his errors. The chilling question surfaces: how many others have walked this same path, disbelieved, dismissed, and erased? Under UK law, acts that knowingly cause severe mental or physical suffering can constitute torture. A serious offense, yes, often seen in the darkest contexts. And while such a charge would typically require sign-off from the Attorney General, the situation here, where a doctor allegedly falsifies records, effectively conspiring with another medical professional to bury the truth, meets every legal element of a conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. The stakes rise further when considering that this conspiracy was not just to protect reputations, but to shield acts that could qualify as torture under UK CPS statute. The cover-up may ultimately be their undoing, as is so often the case. It's a setup worthy of Kafka. You have medical records saying one thing, audio evidence saying the opposite, and a team of trusted professionals ready to obscure the reality. We've all heard that it's the cover-up, not the crime. But here, the crime itself is almost unspeakable. Night after night, I endured hallucinations that rivaled the most potent psychedelics. Side effects so profound they left a lasting impact on my physical and mental health. Alone, each drug had the power to whittle down life expectancy. Together they formed a ticking time bomb that accelerated health decline beyond anything a doctor should ever authorize. This isn't just malpractice, it's a calamity of ethical and legal proportions, underscoring an urgent need for AI oversight like GP AI Psych. Such an AI would have flagged each of these combinations, recognizing the absurdity and danger, alerting authorities to every risk that these doctors ignored, denied, or deliberately concealed. And so we find ourselves here, in the midst of a case where truth, technology, and the very fabric of care stand trial. The AI, unbiased and vigilant, would have laid bare the risks, revealed the patterns, and ensured that no professional, however credentialed, could hide behind a falsified record. GPAI Psych isn't just a system, it's a safeguard, a promise that stories like this will never be buried, misrepresented, or dismissed again.